The evening in the Attawell residence in Lekki was unusually quiet. Emily stood by the kitchen window, the aroma of grilled plantain and spicy pepper soup clinging to the air. She glanced at the clock on the wall, 9:47 p.m. Her husband, Daniel, was late again. His calls went unanswered, her texts unread. A soft hiss from the pot on the stove brought her back to the moment. She lowered the heat, wiped her hands, and took a long breath. The silence felt eerie, like the kind that creeps into old houses just before something breaks. When Daniel finally walked in, he didn't look her way. He moved straight to the fridge, took a bottle of water, and muttered, "Rough day," before disappearing into the bedroom. No kiss, no smile. Emily stood frozen, the chill of the evening air brushing her skin. This wasn't the same man who once danced with her in the rain, who painted her toes while she was ill, who used to call her my sunrise. Their home, once full of shared jokes and late-night whispers, had begun to feel like a hotel lobby. Empty smiles, rushed interactions. Later that night, Emily lay beside Daniel in bed, the space between them vast and cold. She turned slightly and whispered, "Dan, are we okay?" He didn't turn. "Work's just crazy, that's all," came his clipped response. Emily bit her lip. "I miss us. You barely said a word all week." Silence, then a sigh as Daniel shifted even farther away. Emily's hand rested gently over her abdomen, where a small life was beginning to form. 6 weeks pregnant. She hadn't told him yet. Something about his distance made her gut twist. It wasn't just stress, it was something else, something dangerous. Emily poured her heart into the evening meal. She prepared his favorite dishes, grilled chicken soaked in suya spices, jollof rice with fried dodo, and a moist coconut cake. She set the dining table with care, the napkins folded neatly, and a scented candle flickering in the center. She wore a soft yellow dress and had done her hair in curls Daniel always loved. Each time the clock ticked louder, 7:30, then 8:45, her heart dropped a little more. By 10:15, hope had turned to dread. She sat at the table, fork in hand, staring at the chair across from her. Still empty. The food was getting cold, but the ache inside her was still hot. When Daniel finally walked in past 11, he smelled faintly of whiskey and a woman's perfume that didn't belong to Emily. "You're late," she said, voice even. He blinked at her as if just noticing she was there. "Was there something special tonight?" She held his gaze. "It's our anniversary." Daniel stared for a moment, then rubbed the back of his neck. "Sorry, it slipped my mind," he said, shrugging as he glanced at the meal. "You didn't have to do all this." Emily blinked back tears. "I thought it still mattered." Without another word, he picked up a water bottle and headed to the bedroom. Emily remained at the table, looking at the untouched cake, her heart fracturing a little more. That night, she realized the hardest part wasn't the silence. It was realizing someone you love could stop showing up emotionally, then physically. The next morning, Emily sat at the edge of their bed, a small white gift box on her lap. Inside was a tiny onesie that read, "Hi, Dad," along with the ultrasound scan from the day before. Her hands trembled as she imagined telling him. Despite everything, a part of her hoped this baby might remind them of what they once shared, might soften the hard lines forming between them. As Daniel stepped out of the shower, towel over his shoulder, she took a deep breath. "Dan," she began gently, "I've got something to show you." He was already distracted, scrolling on his phone. She handed him the box. He opened it, and his eyes scanned the contents slowly. "What's this?" he asked, voice flat. "I'm pregnant," Emily said, searching his face. "You're going to be a father." He said nothing for a long time, then finally sat down on the bed and sighed. "Are you sure this is the right time?" Emily's heart cracked. "What do you mean? This is our child." Daniel stood up and pulled on his shirt. "We're barely talking, barely surviving. I just think we need to sort ourselves out first." His voice was careful, as if trying not to step on eggshells. But Emily heard it loud and clear. Not excitement, not joy, just concern and avoidance. As he walked away, Emily held the little box tighter. That moment should have been joy. Instead, it felt like shame, and her silence felt heavier than ever. That night, Emily couldn't sleep. Daniel lay with his back turned, snoring softly while her mind raced. Was it something she had done? Had she become invisible in his eyes? She turned toward the nightstand to charge her phone and noticed his screen light up. A message previewed at the top. "Miss you already. Last night was everything." Her breath caught. The sender's name? Bianca K. Emily's hand hovered over the phone. She didn't unlock it, but the implications screamed louder than any confrontation. Another message flashed seconds later. "Still thinking about the way you said my name." Her chest pounded. She placed the phone back quietly and turned away, cradling her belly. The air in the room grew dense. Emily now knew what she didn't want to admit. It wasn't work. It wasn't stress. There was another woman. And that woman wasn't hiding. The next morning, she said nothing. Not from fear, but from strategy. As Daniel brushed past her in the kitchen, she smiled faintly. "Your phone kept lighting up. You might want to put it on silent." He looked up sharply, only for a moment, before muttering, "Just work stuff." Emily nodded slowly. "Of course." But inside, something shifted. She wasn't going to confront him unprepared. She needed proof, and most importantly, she needed peace for her, and for the life growing inside her. Emily met her best friend Sarah at a quiet cafe in Victoria Island. Sarah studied her closely as she stirred her tea. "You're not sleeping," she said softly. "Emily, this isn't just stress. You're disappearing into yourself." Emily gave a shaky smile. "Maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe it's just a phase." Sarah leaned in, her tone firm. "He missed your anniversary, ignored your pregnancy, and you're finding messages from someone named Bianca. This isn't a rough patch. This is erasure. You can't stay in a house where love is just furniture and silence." Emily looked down at her tea, eyes misting. "I'm scared. What if I destroy everything by confronting him too soon?" Sarah reached across the table and gripped her hand. "Then wait. Watch. Gather what you need, but don't let fear keep you in a burning house." Emily nodded, the words digging deep. That evening, when she returned home, she didn't cry. She didn't yell. She observed Daniel as he scrolled through his phone, and for the first time she didn't see her husband. She saw someone who had underestimated her, and that would soon become his greatest mistake. On a rainy Thursday night, Daniel came home with a travel bag slung over his shoulder. "Quick trip to Abuja. Client emergency," he muttered. Emily blinked. "You didn't mention this before." He shrugged. "It came up suddenly. I'll be gone for 4 days." That night, after he fell asleep, Emily reached out to Michael, a contact she met at one of Daniel's firm events. "Quick question," she typed. "Daniel mentioned a trip to Abuja for a client emergency. Just checking in." No reply came until the next day. "What trip?" Michael messaged. "He was in Lagos office all day." Emily's hands trembled. She took screenshots, heart thudding. She rushed to Sarah's apartment. "I need help," she said. Sarah handed her a small GPS tracker. "Next time, slip this into his luggage. But for now, let's check social media." They opened Bianca's page and gasped. A picture of 2 wine glasses on a hotel balcony in Ikoyi. Caption, "My escape, my man, my peace." Emily zoomed in. The reflection on the window was unmistakable. Daniel's silhouette down to the same black watch he wore the night before. She fell back, wind knocked out of her. Sarah caught her. "He's not just lying, he's living a double life." Emily stood, heart steadying. "Then we don't confront, we collect. And when we do confront, he won't be able to deny a single thing." Daniel returned late the next night. Emily acted normal, calm. Dinner was served. His shirts were folded. But inside, she was archiving every word, every movement. She had already backed up photos, gathered receipts, and logged voice notes. Her sister Clara came into town without warning, holding Emily tightly when she saw her. "He brought her into your life and let you suffer alone? You're not his doormat." Emily collapsed into her sister's arms. What if walking away ruins everything? Clara shook her head. It's already ruined. You're just the one still pretending. That night, they lay together in the guest room. You're not weak, Clara whispered. You're just tired of being the only one fighting for a home. Emily wept quietly, but in her heart something reawakened. She wasn't surviving anymore. She was beginning to plan her freedom. The next day, Clara handed her a card. Penelope Clark, divorce lawyer. She's brilliant. Emily stared at the name for a long time. She didn't say yes, but she didn't throw it away either. For the first time, she allowed herself to imagine a life that didn't include Daniel's silence or betrayal. A life that belonged to her and her child. Penelope's law office sat just off a Wallowo Road, cool and quiet like a waiting cathedral. Emily sat opposite the sharp-eyed lawyer, her belly softly rounding under a teal maternity blouse. Penelope didn't speak for several minutes after hearing Emily's story. This isn't just emotional abandonment, she said finally. This borders on calculated cruelty. Emily nodded. I don't want to punish him. I want to reclaim myself. And I want my daughter to come into a home where love is peaceful. Penelope opened a fresh file. Then we start quietly. No drama, just documentation. We gather receipts, proof of emotional neglect, proof of infidelity, especially if he's using company resources. Emily nodded. He thinks I'm still scared to leave. Penelope smiled. Let him think so. You don't win battles with shouting. You win them by outlasting the noise. Back home, Emily made copies of bank statements, stashed audio recordings, and began transferring small amounts into a private account. With Sarah's help, she even started freelance consulting again remotely and quietly. Each task was a thread in the fabric of her escape. Daniel, oblivious, noticed only her sudden peaceful demeanor. You've changed, he said one night. Emily smiled faintly. No, I'm just done pouring into empty cups. He blinked but said nothing. His silence no longer hurt, it confirmed what she already knew. He didn't expect her to rise, and that was her greatest weapon. The morning Daniel was served the divorce papers, Emily didn't flinch. She laid them on the dining table beneath his favorite coffee mug. When he walked in and saw the envelope, he laughed bitterly. You're not serious. Emily, calm, took a sip of her tea. I'm dead serious. This marriage is over. You broke it. I'm just making it official. Daniel sat down, scanning the document. You're really walking away because of a few messages? Emily met his eyes. No, I'm walking away because of years of silence, because you chose to let another woman into our lives, then made me feel guilty for reacting. He stared at her. I was confused. She stood, voice steady. You were careless, not confused. And I won't let our daughter be raised in a home where her mother begs for respect. He laughed again, louder this time. So now you're the strong woman, huh? Emily picked up her bag. No, Daniel, I always was. You just didn't think I'd remember. She left him sitting there, stunned, the papers trembling in his hands. That evening, Sarah came over. They toasted with palm wine and small chops. Not to revenge, but to freedom. He underestimated you, Sarah whispered. Emily nodded, holding her growing belly. Good. It'll make my silence hit even harder. Months passed and the day came. In a private Lagos hospital room, Emily brought her daughter into the world. The labor was long, but her resolve was longer. As the nurse placed the baby girl in her arms, Emily wept freely. Welcome, Zara, she whispered. We made it. Clara stood at her side, beaming, while Sarah filmed the moment with shaking hands. Zara's first cries echoed in the room like an anthem. Emily held her close and whispered, You'll never learn love through pain, not if I can help it. Outside, Daniel waited, flowers in hand, unaware he was no longer welcome. A nurse politely informed him visitation was limited to her chosen list. He was not on it. He sat alone in the car park, watching light spill through the hospital window, knowing that his daughter's first breath had not included him. Weeks later, Emily launched Rooted, a wellness brand built around healing teas, journals, and postpartum care products. She sold out in 2 days. Women across Lagos began quoting her social posts. She wasn't just a survivor, she was a symbol. As she rocked Zara to sleep one night, the house quiet and full of peace. She smiled. We didn't need revenge, she whispered. We just needed truth. When betrayal silences a woman, she doesn't crumble, she listens. And when she finally speaks, she doesn't scream. She rebuilds, she reclaims, and she rises. The real power isn't in staying. It's in knowing exactly when to leave and doing so with your head held high. What are your thoughts on Emily's journey, her silence, strength, and ultimate rise? We'd love to hear your take in the comments below. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a new story. Thanks for watching. Yeah.